Just remember that. Just remember when you listen to a certain radio show. I was listening. I got to come out with it because it kind of gave me sort of an idea, sort of a baseline for some of today's show. I was listening to one of the big talk shows out there. Listen, you know what? I'm just going to put the name out there. I don't care. The Glenn Beck program. It originated here in Tampa, Florida, with Clear Channel Communications. Sue Tracus was a producer over there. She's produced some other broadcast. Anyway, long story short, Glenn Beck was so much better here in Tampa as a talk show host. Went off to Fox News and all that stuff in New York, and he was in Philadelphia. And I followed him a little bit because I was friends with him. But for whatever reason, he, and again, I have nothing really bad to say about independents, but libertarian, he just beat up Trump so bad, said nothing good about him, was vehemently attacking this guy. I mean, and again, no better than NBC, CBS, MSNBC, or any of them. And then he got Doc, whoever the guy is filling in for Thompson, I think was today. Yeah, today filling in for Glenn Beck. Using the overexcited microphone when they're on the radio. This is Glenn Beck. I don't know what it is about some talk show hosts. They have to be like super inflated or something like that to bring the stop the processing of the microphone. Just stop it. We don't use any processing here. We just use a standard RE20. That's it. We don't need the inflation. We don't need the peanut gallery. But he's trying to lend credibility to Glenn Beck and to the organization. One of the biggest reasons why, folks, is that the Blaze, they fired a bunch of people. They've been losing a lot of money. And, it's because of the very fact the guy has been reinventing himself. And you say part of that's good. Problem is that he's lost a lot of his listening base, and a lot of radio stations starting to dump Glenn Beck because nobody knows really where he stands. He contradicts himself so frequently, so often. It hasn't been a very consistent message. And that's what's happening here. Defending, and the guy's going down a rabbit trail, trying to defend his boss and trying to defend the network and fleeing off people, talking about how people misjudge people. He's talking about judgment and how people they don't weigh out the whole person, and they hear a certain thing on a show and then they have a complete, if you will, analysis of the entire person. And to a certain degree, I think I understand where he was coming from. But his listening base has been listening to it for some time. I always say if you miss an hour, you've missed a lot. We do 2 hours. So you have to get the two full hours, and it's good to be able to do that so you can put the whole show in perspective. So you listen to the entire show. Some stations just carry 1 hour, and that's okay because they're standalone hours. You wouldn't know that. I present it at forthepeopleshow.com. You can listen to hours 1 and 2. For whatever reason, hour 2 comes first, then hour 1 at the bottom. You can control the player and you can make it do what it wants to do. But the one usually below it, 2, and there's identification markers on there. Credibility is all you have. People remember what you said. Most people do. Which you pray when you keep on flip-flopping of issues with politicians where they say never underestimate the stupidity of the American people because their memories are not long. They're short. Or if not, forgiving. There's diehard fans who are like, he screwed up. I make mistakes. I mispronounce a name here and there, and maybe something that maybe I don't want to say wasn't factual. But something just the context may have not been correct. But when I realize it, I'll clarify it. If not on the next program, I'll hear it. And so sometimes I get some critiques from some program directors around the country. They'll send me a little clip and said, "Did you realize that you said this. One guy actually sounds like that. And I said, no. So he sends me the clip. And I don't think, you sounded like that. But I said something that just didn't make a whole lot of sense. And I'm telling you, it's common sense. Human error is going to happen. But there's a consistency thing that goes on. And one thing that we have been, and for 3 years that I have hosted this very program, is that we have been consistent. And with our positions, we hold fast. And if we change position, we will make a rather big deal out of it, and everybody will know why we did. But when it comes down to individuals and fact-checking and people that know a certain individual, like Donald Trump, I know people that know Trump. I lived in New York City. I know rich families, and believe me, I'm not an elitist. I'm just, I worked for companies, the Strausses in New York, where I started in radio back in the 80s when I was a kid, but we knew these people. I still know them. A lot of prominent families in New York that just know people that know people. And it always is good to have a bunch of friends that can, point you in the right direction and help you and groom you. But if you need a favor, you can pick up the phone, you can call, and you can ask somebody a question, and you get a straight answer. And you know that the answer that you get is credible because of their character, because of who they are, who they've proven themselves to be. And Dr. Martin Luther King had said that most eloquently during his speech in Washington, D.C., where he says that we should judge people more for their character than for the color of their skin. We need to stop judging people with those baselines, but more of what we see. And as the Bible put it, you shall know them by their fruits, the disciples of Jesus, if you will, on how they behave, how they speak about other people. I did not like Barack Hussein Obama very much when it came to his policies and his politics. But I wasn't hating on the family man. I wasn't hating on his kids. I wasn't hating on his wife, beating her up, wishing bad things on her, and all this other stuff like the liberal media does, beating them up constantly, trying to find anything and everything they possibly could say to demean them, belittle them, berate them. And that's what all the mainstream media Tonight shows. It's a preoccupation to be able to belittle, berate as much as they possibly can our president of the United States. Where's the virtue? Where is the character? Where's the morality? Where is it, folks? Where is it in this country? A lot of people say, Keith, you shouldn't talk so much about religion. You shouldn't do that because then you're going to alienate the people that are not. Folks, I believe that religion, there's a good thing in it. Christianity, folks, Jesus said, put away your swords, okay? Non-resistance, Gandhi, if you will, non-resistance. I don't worship Gandhi. It's Jesus, but who else would you like to have a better example of? We need to have more people, I think, listening to that message than any other message of nonviolence and to abide by the law of the land. Can you imagine back then if you were saying the things against the king? I know that Donald Trump's not a king. Barack Obama thought he was. But there is a respect for the office. And there's such a disrespect on a lot of America and coming from a lot of so-called Americans, belittling and berating at a time, especially now, that he needs your prayers. He needs your support. He needs all of those things. And that's not political. That's what's good for our country. Do you like belittling people? Do you like berating people? You like lying about people. If that's the kind of people you are, that's the party you're going to keep. That's the people that you'll hang around. That's who you're high-fiving with. That's your company. But folks, that's not the company I like to keep. I like to talk about ideas. I like to talk about building things. I like to talk about what I'm going to do in the future, where we're going, what we're going to do together, how we're going to make things better. Not sitting there belittling and berating and degrading somebody else. We should be wishing better things, and especially the President of the United States of America. Don't you think? Because it serves all of us in this country. If we unite and rally around this president. The left, boy, that was their Messiah. But it almost is like Jesus in some respects. Of course, back then they didn't recognize the Jews that it was, but the Christians recognized it. But here it is that the liberals thought that Barack Hussein Obama was their savior. And everything that they wanted, they got, and he was their mouthpiece 100%, hook, line, and sinker, and he made you feel good about yourself. He made you feel good. He'd lie to you. You can keep your doctor. Well, I'm telling you, you can have your doctor. This is going to be the best thing for America because everybody's going to have insurance. Nobody's going to be left behind. You can feel good about that. Don't let the Republicans tell you different. Okay? Let me make myself clear. Barack Obama, the preacher. Barack Obama, the community organizer. He should be in Chicago. He should be in Baltimore. He should be in Los Angeles. He should be in New York City. He should be in San Francisco. Community organizing to get these gangs off the street and stop killing each other. You should stop killing each other. Look what I did. I became the president of the United States, and so can you. And let me encourage you. You think he's going to do that? No, he's got his mansion in Washington, D.C. No other president, by the way, no other president's done that. He's arrogant. He thinks very highly of himself. You think he's donating millions of dollars to the people in Vegas? You think Hillary Clinton wrote a check for millions of dollars for the people there in Vegas? No, they did not. Do you think Jimmy Kimmel took his checkbook out and wrote a check for people in Vegas? Do you think any of those folks? They didn't. But they have to sit here and berate and belittle. And and when they do that, they take all the deplorables, all of the deplorables that voted, and for those they didn't even know voted, that's sitting right next to them, working right there with them. You don't know what lever they pressed. You don't know who they voted for. You think you know what they voted for. They don't tell you who they voted for. How do you think that Donald Trump got elected? You think you know everybody, don't you? But you don't. A lot of people thought that they knew the shooter in Vegas. They thought he knew him. And Hillary Clinton, she thinks she's got everything figured out too. So last night, Hillary Clinton, she goes off performing and plugging her new book, What Happened, in front of friendly faces in a Democratic stronghold, Broward County, lamented the Las Vegas tragedy by blaming Republicans. According to the Sun Sentinel, Hillary blamed Trump for signing legislation that made it harder to keep guns out of the hands of people with mental illness. And she ripped Republicans for their silencer legislation, not mentioning that it had been shelved in the wake of the Las Vegas massacre. Of course she didn't mention it. Trump had been silent about any issue on gun